After a moment, she comes back into the room in a bathrobe. I knew where this was possibly going, and I immediately wanted out. I got up and said I'd better go call my wife and get a good night's sleep. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, going to go over a story titled, My Supervisor at Work, an early 40s female, is almost certainly trying to seduce me. I'm happily married. I also have a work trip coming up with just the two of us. How do I handle this? And guys, this is from a guy, he's 31 years old, married, happily married, if you can believe that. And he's going to share his story about how his female boss, who's 40 years old, recently divorced, as you're going to find out, who's been kind of a mentor to him, has definitely been doing some very serious flirting in the office. Definitely to the point that it's inappropriate. And you're going to see this guy has concerns because they're about to go on a long work trip to Las Vegas together. And he's concerned about her putting the moves on him, which you are going to see actually, you'll see what happens there. And you're going to see through this story, guys, this guy's wondering how he should handle this because he's in an awkward position because it's his boss. And also the fact that she's really helped him in his career, been up to bat for him a lot of times, things like that. So he feels grateful, but he's in an awkward position. And as I go through this story, guys, I want you to remember as I go through this, I want you to think about what would happen if the situation was reversed. If the guy telling this story was actually a woman and the supervisor boss was a man. And if the supervisor, the boss, who was a man in this hypothetical situation, was doing the same thing to her, how would that go? How would that be taken in today's society? As you can imagine, not too well. So I'm going to go through this story here, and in the end, I'm going to share my opinions on what he thinks how this situation should be handled with his boss. So it starts off, he says, I've been working in my current job for about a year and a half now. It's pretty cool, pays fairly well, and doesn't usually have long hours. It's been great because it provides a good life for me and my great wife, so I can't complain. In the first year that I took the job, I've mostly had a great working relationship with my supervisor. Professionally, she's a great supervisor at work. She challenges me to learn new things, to grow my career, and always goes to bat and defends me with higher-ups. She honestly has made me a better person professionally and is wonderful in that regard. Okay, and if it was left at that, that would be awesome. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Personally, though, she's a little bit of a mess. Imagine that. She's a divorced woman around 10 years or so older than me. She has constant drama with her ex-husband that I've picked up on. She is very good about not bringing it into work, but I've overheard some phone conversations, and she's told me a bit at times over lunch and stuff. She's also, wait for it, guys, a huge flirt. I never noticed it with anyone in the office, but she uses it as a tool at times at trade shows and such to push deals, for example. She's not an unattractive woman at all, so she does that fairly successfully. All right, dude, admit that she's good looking, okay. So what we got here, guys, is a woman who's 40 years old, recently divorced. A lot of drama in her life. Imagine that. But I tell you guys all the time on my other channel that all women love drama. And all women can get sucked into drama. Some women, it can be just a little bit of drama. Other women, it's a whole three-ring circus of drama. But there's always drama. But no, she's divorced. And people tend to be that are divorce unhappy sometimes want to make sure other people are in the same situation as they are, especially people that are happily married. Keep that in mind. Up until about 2 months or so ago, I always just dismissed that as something funny and not always something worth worrying about. Her flirting and all. That is until some of that flirting started becoming directed my way. She's sometimes done this kind of innocently as a joke in the past, which was easily dismissible. It was not innocent, okay? Let me tell you something. 44 years old, having a whole lot of life experience. Women know exactly what they're doing when it comes to flirting and all. They are perfectly aware of it. So there's no accidental flirting or crossing the line or anything innocent at all. Believe me. But lately, it kind of feels like it's crossed the line a bit. She knowingly would lean over so I can look down her shirt. Will leave her hand on my shoulder just a bit too long, make slightly sexual jokes, stuff like that. What I say, guys, in the beginning, what would happen if the situation was reversed and a male supervisor was doing this to a young female employee? right? How would that be taken? How would the comments be if it was different, right? I brought this up with my wife over Christmas break. She was a bit conflicted. She met my supervisor before and liked her. So 101, on the one hand, she thought that she was just being her usual self, kind of like the female version of Michael Scott from The Office. But on the other hand, she does think it's a bit weird, but doesn't really know what I should do. What do you mean? Most women hearing that their boss is flirting with their guy would be responding in a completely different way. She's been my lifeline at work so many times and has defended me when most others wouldn't. I'd be putting myself into a really risky position politically at work if I tried to initiate any conflict or risk my professional relationship with her. She's putting you in an uncomfortable position. She's doing these things and she knows darn well what she's doing, and I don't want to hear that she stood up for me, went up to bat with me, the upper-ups at the company and all this stuff like that. That's great if that was the case and only thing, but now she's doing all this. This is a classic situation, but usually you hear this in the opposite situation with a man doing this to a woman, not the other way around. Here's the real kicker. I have a work trip coming up in about a month or so. It'll be just the two of us. We've done this twice in the past. Obviously, we have different rooms. We don't travel together, and she just lets me borrow her corporate card and makes my own travel arrangements as long as I get a good deal. But I'll be meeting up with her in Vegas for a 3-night trade show thing. And I'm sure her mind is thinking, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I'm concerned that her flirting might escalate things and that she'll try to pull something. While I don't have concrete evidence, I'm fairly certain that she's done this before. Gee, you think? Not necessarily with anyone in the office, but with other guys in the industry from other businesses. Well, this guy's witnessed this, so it's pretty easy to believe that this is a thing she's used to. And wait till you see what happens, guys. I really enjoy working with this lady. I'm beyond appreciative for what she's done for me in my career. But I'm also extremely happily married, and I'm concerned that she's thinking about trying something on our upcoming Vegas business trip. Any ideas on what to do? Well, there's nothing been done so much just yet that could cause you to react in a certain way. But obviously, your gut's telling you something's wrong. You got to be on your guard. And obviously, the touching you, the hand on your shoulder and all that stuff. But all these things she's done for you in your career doesn't excuse if you're feeling really uncomfortable, and things like that. Now for some updates. He says, first, I found out a few more details of my trip next weekend. I'll be headed out from the nearby airport Wednesday and getting to Vegas that night. My supervisor is going to be there already and is going to pick me up at the airport since you already have a rental car. We have most of the day off on Thursday, and she's told me that she wants to meet one of our clients Thursday evening for dinner. Last time I checked, there is a never-ending supply of taxi cabs in Las Vegas. You can't go 3 feet without a taxi cab there to pick your ass up, and not to mention Ubers. So, now this obviously wasn't written right now in 2022, I don't think. So she doesn't need to come pick him up, okay? Leave the hotels, drive along the strip down to the airport. No. He can get there on his own. But I'm assuming he's going to arrive at night, and she's probably hoping, oh, let's go for drinks. Get your own ride. While I can't know for sure, I'm fairly certain that there is no client really coming to dinner Thursday. The show doesn't really start until Friday afternoon, and only exhibitors are going to be there Thursday, not really attendees. I could be blowing it out of proportion, but after reading what everyone said here yesterday, my spidey senses are kind of tingling. Trust your gut. Get your own ride to your hotel. Minimize contact with her. I also noticed 2 little nonverbal things yesterday. She came into my office to check on a project we were working on and kind of sat on the edge of my desk, leaning over to check on something on my computer screen. Without going into detail, she did all this in a way that was a little uncomfortably intimate. It's embarrassing and uncomfortable because my male instinct kicked in and I found myself having thoughts I hated myself for. Okay, dude, you're not a Boy Scout. You can think that she's good looking and you can have your mind a little bit in the gutter for fun, but you don't take it anywhere else. But again, this is a workplace. This bullshit shouldn't be going on in the workplace. I don't care what the situation is. You're there for work, and she had to fucking know that. This is headed in a direction I do not like. I did some checking up around yesterday, and there's no way I can back out of the trip. I've already got meetings scheduled with colleagues and clients. Everything's booked in my name and is more or less non-refundable, especially the high-cost vendor badge, which is non-transferable. I've also talked to my wife and tried to see if she can come along, but that's not really a possibility, and she's got the biggest event of the year at her workplace to tend to next Friday and Saturday. So seriously, what do I do? Well, this is work, you got to go, but you just avoid her as much as possible. And if it comes to it, you got to lay down the law if it gets too far. So, the next update, where things really get interesting. He says, as for the update, I just got back from the trip last night, and things went, well, awkwardly. I followed everyone's best advice from the previous thread and mostly kept to myself and kept things professional as possible. Very smart. I went ahead and arranged for my own travel from the airport to my hotel this past Wednesday and feigned some excuses to not do anything with her until Thursday at lunch when we met up to plan to meet at our booth at the trade show and get it all set up and such. See, you can get your own damn ride. We had normal chit-chat otherwise. She seemed comparably tame to how she acted in the past, and my previous fears started to fade away. We got to our booth, got all set up, kind of went our own separate ways for a few hours to do some touristy Vegas stuff for a while, met some colleagues from another company for dinner, and called it a night because we both agreed that we want to get a good night's sleep before having to get up early and work a long trade show from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. the next day. So far, so good. But do not think for a second that her mind isn't in the gutter. The next day, working the show went fine. We were actually pretty productive and such. I politely turned down beers and such as they were passed around the show floor, opting instead for Diet Coke or whatever. The company hosting the show had a nice dinner and social hour for us afterwards, and I felt comfortable having enough Jack and Coke. I know my limits, and I knew that one wouldn't put me too far. Afterwards, I took a half-mile walk down the strip to get a little Vegas trouble, lose a little money, and have some fun, and got back to the hotel room around 9 p.m. so I could watch a movie and get some sleep early again. I felt pretty good about the trip so far. Business was good, I was having a good time, and my boss was well-behaved, at least until this point. This is where things got dicey. I got a call from my supervisor around 9:30 p.m. saying she wanted to go over some info before we had a meeting with a client early in the morning. 9:30, she happens to just call you then at that time. She couldn't have mentioned this earlier in the day. You're already winding down, getting ready to go to bed early. Now I get 9:30 at night is super early in Las Vegas. 9:30 at night in Vegas is like 3 p.m. anywhere else in the world, okay? In terms of like, nobody's going to bed anytime near 9:30 at night at Vegas unless you're up to the crack of dawn. She could have contacted you earlier about this so-called meeting that was so necessary. She acted mostly professional to that point, so I didn't worry too much, but asked if she wanted to just meet me in the lobby bar, which she agreed to. Stupid. Say, what have you got to talk? I'm going to bed. I'm winding down. Why don't we talk on the phone, just a few things, and we'll see you in the morning. Nope. So they meet at the bar. We met up for a bit, and she mentioned she forgot a folder in her room and asked me to come with her because there's just one more thing she wanted to check in on. Bullshit. She did not happen to forget a folder, which would then lead her to, come on up to my room and we'll go over that final piece of information. Bullshit. This was kind of a red flag, you think? But she'd been normal to that point, so I reluctantly agreed. Well, he's going to learn he should have listened to his gut and trust and paid attention to the red flags. We got back to her room, and she got me the folder that had the client info that we needed to look over. She said she needed to use the bathroom real quick while I looked it over. After a moment, she comes back into the room in a bathrobe. I knew where this was possibly going, and I immediately wanted out. I got up and said I'd better go call my wife and get a good night's sleep. But she kept asking questions about the client and what I thought. I kind of stammered through, looking for an opportunity to leave, but she was sort of standing there in the way. I just couldn't leave. Again, what would happen if the situation was reversed? Right? It's all a blur at this point, but she dropped her robe. I looked away immediately, but she was standing there in lace panties and nothing else. It sounds like a movie. What'd I tell you? She didn't forget that folder. She left it behind on purpose to get back to the room. Oh, I got to use the bathroom. Comes out in the road. Next thing you know, whoosh, drops it. Nothing there except her panties. I don't think she's asked. I don't think at this point it's pretty obvious that his gut about her all along has been 100% accurate. And again, what would happen if the situation was reversed? I did not want to be attracted to her and given to my primal male notion. So I just kind of averted my eyes, slipped out the door, and said, I'll see her in the morning. I called my wife and told her what happened, and she was just kind of dumbstruck and didn't really know what to tell me. What pretty much any woman I would ever know would be like, freaking out and say, I'm going to kill that bitch. Dumbstruck, didn't know what to do. Part of me was offended that she'd go that far. Part of me was scared to death of what would happen next. And I'd be embarrassingly honest, that primal male part of me was a little excited that something actually happened. Dude, again, stop being a Boy Scout. In your mind, you can think, well, she's looking pretty hot. That's pretty cool. On the one sense, that's cool that she was hot for me, and I got a great story to tell everybody. On the other hand, I'm not going to let my career be jeopardized by this broad. No freaking way. And it was inappropriate. We're working together, etc., etc. I even told my wife about it, and with her encouragement and a few fun Snapchat pictures she sent me, I visited certain sites on the internet and got that out of my system. Oh, okay. The next morning, it was like if nothing happened. I was probably acting very awkwardly the next 2 days and tiptoeing around her, but she acted as if nothing happened. Of course, she likes putting people in awkward, uncomfortable positions, and she knows you're feeling awkward about it. She knows you're married. Think she gives a shit? What I tell you about people that are unhappy in their life situation, they're single, divorced, whatever, and sometimes they want to screw things up for everybody else that are happy because that way, misery loves company. Of course she's acting like nothing was wrong, everything's cool. And meanwhile, this guy's just like, oh my God. It was cheaper for the company to stay another night and fly up Monday morning, and I just kept my distance between the end of the show and her Sunday afternoon and when I left. He says, now is the first day back in the office, but she took off a day today and won't be back until tomorrow. I have no idea what to do. It's possible that she'll just never talk about it again, but there's so many other possibilities. If I try to bring it up with anyone here at the office, it'll just be my word against hers. In the Me Too world, I might add. I just have no clue how to proceed here. I've already been looking elsewhere for other jobs for around 2 months now and haven't had much luck. So I don't know if I can just leave. This is so damn confusing. Okay, so like I said in the beginning and multiple times, if this was reversed and he was a woman and she was a man and this shit happened, how do you think it would go? How do you think people would respond to this? You guaranteed they'd be telling, go to HR, go to the supervisor, go to the owner, go to the boss, report what happened. It's not cool because, in that situation, the uncomfortable feeling, and then, of course, the rope dropping incident and blah, blah, blah. There'd be 100% grounds to have her fired, etc., etc. The problem is this situation is a guy this is being done to and a female supervisor. And we know nowadays, literally, she could go to HR or the boss and make up some story about him. And even though he didn't do anything and she's putting the moves on him, get him fired. Right? So at this point, in my opinion, given the fact that he does well in his career, this is his job. It's not easy for him to obviously get something new right now because he said he was looking. And the fact that she did all this bullshit, I wouldn't care that previously she was doing things to help him out in his career, go to bat for him with the management, etc., etc. Because all that went out the door when she started doing the gestures making him uncomfortable in this final act. Okay? No. If it was me, because I take care of me, and in my opinion, I come first before everybody else, I would go right to HR or the bosses, explain what happened, and say I'm in an awkward situation here, and she's been my supervisor, but this is what happened, and every detail. And she gets fired, who gives a shit? Because you know what? She could be pissed off that this guy rejected her. And next thing you know, he's being dragged into HR. She made a complete story up, crying, something like this, and this guy gets canned. You see what I mean? And not to mention a record, maybe. So, in my opinion, I would formulate a plan and go to HR, management, and report her. End of story. She crossed the line. And I don't care if she was doing all those nice gestures for him before, because you know what? That could have been part of the plan. And she obviously is experienced in this. He said at the end, after what happened the next few days, she acted like nothing happened at all. Right? So she obviously has experience in this. And again, misery loves company, divorce, unhappy. And like I said before, this wasn't an accident. Women know exactly what they're doing when it comes to flirting and being touchy-feely and all that, and they will plan things out. That folder incident, that was planned. That call at 9:30 at night, oh, we need to go over a few things, that was planned, okay? And I guarantee she probably would have said, why don't you just come into my room? But he quickly said, let's meet down at the bar for drinks. Then she thought, okay, well, I got to get back to my room somehow, so I'll forget the folder. Sure enough, and a way to get him back. And, of course, she was playing it cool the whole time, so his guard was down. So, no, this guy needs to report it before his ass is reported It's a dog eat dog, rat eat rat, kill or be killed world we're in, so he's got to take care of himself. That's my opinion on this particular subject. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. I told you this is a crazy one. And for any, obviously, have ever been in a situation like this or known someone has been in a work situation like this, I'd like to hear your opinions on it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.